Hello and welcome to the channel Anthropohistory and Colonialism. I am Victor Collins, anthropologist, and today we're going to continue the course Imperial Culture of the Demiurge, Jehovah, in a dialogue and contrast with the one being, which is the culture of Hermes and Tehuti. And this lecture is called Religious System and the Occult Orders. Ordo ab chaos. So I am very glad that all of you are following the course. I invite you to like, subscribe, and comment, and that you stay with us until the end of the course. So let's move ahead. Uh, Touching the Ordo of Chaos Masonic phrase, okay? So, in revolutions such as the French and the Soviet, even with the revolutionary fury to destroy monarchy, royalty, and aristocracy by the opposing groups, it is with the occult interceptation of secret societies, that the decisions will be made. The unfolding of Jacobin orders, such as the Robespierre brothers, that suffer the influence of secret orders, and that have applied the theme Ordo ab chaos to convulse reality, destroy monarchy in its formality, and make its presence behind the revolutionary movement. This presence is evidenced in the formation of a tyrannical state with Napoleon and an orgy of killing horrors such as exposed by Eustace Mullins uh, in his Course of Cana, where this horror has been applied as sacrificial rites to non-human entities and through the rule of these secret orders. So what happens is that the revolutionary movement, the popular urge for freedom, and all the fury is infiltrated by Masonic agents, and a higher organization, technology, and even genetics intercepts the movement to its own agenda, and 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 all of this becomes, after the revolution, the organized revolution, it becomes another tyrannical order and regime. Okay, so this is a very dramatical pattern all throughout history, and it has happened in all revolutionary movements. France, Soviet Union, in the American independence, the Civil War, they were all infiltrated by the secret societies with hidden agendas, okay? And this theme, Ordo ab chaos, is a very important theme, very present throughout these movements. The same has been applied into the 9/11 events, as all that has happened, including the building of the towers that were destined to be destroyed in their own when they were made, the symbolism of the Twin Towers that comes from the Temple of Solomon through the Masonic orders, such as the Scots Rite, uh, and are called Jachin and Boaz. So there's a whole esoteric meaning to these twin pillars, Jachin and Boaz, um, and a whole esoteric knowledge related to um, to the secret societies coming from imperial Egypt. And of course, Solomon is not a historical figure that lived. Okay, it's simply a code referring the Temple of the Sun, which is the Great Pyramid of Giza, where the imperial and messianic cult consecrating the emperor as Messiah was performed, and it's related to the Atonist and Sethian royal dynasties. Okay, so I indicate the work of Ralph Ellis that have has done a very fine study finding in the historical record within the Atonist and Sethian dynasties these the corresponding monarchs and aristocrats related to such terms as Solomon and David, because of course these are titles and encoded terms, okay? But Ralph Ellis has pointed out in the historical record within these royal dynasties, right? Uh, in the Hyksos and the Atonist or the Judite and the Levite cultures with their many um, aristocrats has found the parallel to the terms David, Solomon, Queen of Sheba, and so on. Okay, so the work of Ralph Ellis and Michael Tessarion, supported by the work of Jordan Maxwell, has analyzed the symbolism of Jachin and Boaz um, as exposed and used by secret societies. Okay, so the Twin Tower symbolism um, the narrative of opposition between the US and the enemy in the Middle East, the participation of the media with all its simulacra, the artificial situations created, as President Bush reading the book My Pet Goat to children in the day of the catastrophe, right? These are all preparation for order through chaos. And this book, My Pet Goat, is a Masonic phrase that translates as basically that all humans are pet goats, are kids, right? That's what kids means, as defined by Jordan Maxwell. Therefore, subjugated to the Masonic orders. Okay, and the term derived from baptizing in metis, which is wisdom, right? The Baphomet uh, is what these misleaders are referring to, that we are all subjugated to their cult. Okay, so that's how the occult powers inform all the people what's going on in symbolic and encoded language. Okay, um, yeah. So all of the simulacra and the procedure are a preparation of order through chaos. Okay? With this, the destruction of the Twin Towers as a farced spectacle and registered live has made use of a very advanced technology that has made use of very advanced technology that um, escape in its effects and efficiency the comprehension of the public. Okay, um, so I quote John Lear and his information. Of course, I don't expect this to be accepted unconditionally, or has to be questioned and inquired. But John Lear says that they used a molecular destruction through microwaves that destroyed the the pillars of steel within the Twin Towers, okay? And por gentileza, tô gravando. So molecular destruction through the for this advanced technology that was indicated by the way that the towers uh, have remained after. So they saw the remains of the pillars and realized that it was done by advanced technology. Okay, and even the planes are being referred as to be holographic projections, which means there were no planes. Okay, these were holograms, even with all its incredible efficiency. Okay, and I know it sounds fantastic, but the truth is that the secret societies, the secret government, right, the secret orders behind the government, they have these very advanced technologies, and all the occult history of the West after the World War, from the Operation Paperclip, right, way up to the present, that involves a totally different set of decisions and events that must be studied through alternative history. So I indicate the work of Dr. Michael Sala, that has a lot of great studies on these subjects. Okay, so the use of these advanced technologies weigh up the murder of thousands of people. So all of this has been succeeded by the populist and fraudulent campaign to invade Iraq. Okay, and the policy of martial law and maximum security, the war on terror everywhere, spread everywhere. All of this is the application of the theme Ordo ab Chaos since the projection and construction of the towers until its destruction and the forced invasion of Iraq. Okay. Uh, as I said before, we are not making conspiracy theories. We are analyzing the conspiratorial agenda run by these secret societies that has been around since ever, okay? At the cost of human life and suffering, and that has been analyzed in a spectacular way, pardon me, in a very efficient way through the work of Jordan Marx. The Titanic is another case that also has been involved um, in the mortal influence of secret societies when the order given by one of them while grouping politicians and financial rival agents to the Federal Reserve in the ship has preceded its destruction while directly sinking the ship and eliminating the opposition. So, yeah, this was a planned event by one of the secret societies that are pivotal in the whole Western colonialist process centered in Rome. And it has the intention of eliminating a rival group that had another financial project for the US, right? So with with the destruction of this group, the Federal Reserve took over, and with all its very dark consequences. So the manner to decode the agenda, the past, and the future that the secret societies inform everyone is to be able to translate the information um, contained in the architecture, in the symbols, the terms and vocabulary present in social life. Because one of the requirements for the secret societies is to inform the public their past. Okay, so the whole past of the imperial takeover on this earth, for example, the takeover of Rome in the Jewish revolt, or the Roman Caesar culture taking over in Egypt, all of this is being informed to us in the corporative world, in the social world, through symbols and architecture and encoded language. Okay, so we must apply the study of symbolism, etymology, and historiography to decode correctly this information. And then translate this information, making the link with the alternative historiography. And this work, of course, has been pioneered by all the authors that have been mentioned before. Okay. In fact, all of this information is exposed, but the true sense and the interpretation becomes hidden and behind a fog through the very nature, through the very deceptive nature and the style in which this information is present. So it is made in such a way that this decoding and this interpretation becomes sort of not possible to be done until an author within the alternative research and historiography succeeds in doing. Okay, and as I said, Michael Tessarion's Irish Origins of Civilization has done an excellent job in this sense. Right. So we're gonna make a brief analysis of the Saturnian cult. So the cult of Saturn, the Saturnian orders that descend in the West from Imperial Egypt, are observed through the presence of the hexagram of Saturn, called the Star of David, the public clocks or the domain of Kronos in the Latin temples, the black cubes, the black squares present in the modern world and in Western life as a whole. Such as academic university, where they use that famous black marker board, right? That black square in their head. The black clothes or robes of official authorities, such as judges, priests, and cardinals. In the musical industry and fashion, as in the so-called Venus and Dionysian cults, which is simply the industry that captures beauty and sexuality, and the rock industry, all the musical industry. So within all of this corporative industrial activity, including the celebrities, the rock stars, and all of this is a program simulacra that has its roots in Nazi Germany and took over America through the infiltration and the takeover of the ex Third Reich officials and authorities in America through paperclip, right? So all of this industrial culture, which is nothing but a simulacra, it's all fake, of course, and it's all made up, uh, contains it, and it is exposing all of these Saturnian symbols. Okay, so it's very important to be able to decode them and read them correctly. It's a true Saturnian code. Terms like the Phoenician Canaanite El points to Saturn, such as Elohim translate as gods from Saturn. Words like electricity, election, Latin, Latin, sex, they all refer directly to Saturn. Sex in Latin is 6, a reference to the 6-point hexagram of Saturn. Okay? Such as the word Sabbath, that translates as divine star, and opens to the theme of the radical transformation that the planet Saturn has suffered in the history of our solar system. So there's an indication of a period, of a time in history before Saturn had rings, and it appeared in the skies as a star with a very intense brilliance. Okay. Well, I indicate the work of David Icke and other authors that study the Saturn-Moon matrix, such as the channel called Primeval Archive or Primeval Mythology, that has an extent study on the Nag Hammadi library and in the Saturn-Moon matrix. Okay, and what this is all about. So these are very, very powerful material and a great work in these channels and authors. So we have studied the Demiurgic culture of Jehovah. Now we're gonna dialogue and contrast with the Hermetic culture. So the culture of Chem, where derives words like chemistry or alchemy, that is Gnostic, defined as the possibility of direct revelation of the divine spark within human beings. These cultures affirm themselves in the immediate tension towards imperialism, the cult of the Demiurge, and all the dangers there present. They elaborated and extend the Gnostic literature. So the Pistis Sophia, the if I'm not mistaken, Apostasies of the Archons, okay, and all the studies that come from this, detailed each archontic entity that are servers of the Demiurge, a cult manifested by the terms Yahweh, Yaldabaoth, Zeus, Baal, and Jehovah, which I assume to be all variations of the same Demiurgic cult. Okay, so this literature, the Gnostic literature, has studied these archontic servants in their planet of actuation, as the esoteric terms necessary to pass through the rulers in the interdicted space between the earth, moving way up forward to the origin of the divine spark present in human beings, that is called the pleroma. um, the radical Gnostic intention, while affirming that this world and the physical universe are manifestations of a tyrannical and predatory entity that sees human beings as resources and energy to be utilized and to feed the system, just as we see in the film The Matrix. Okay, so by the way, the term matrix came from a study of Jordan Maxwell called Matrix of Control. Uh, and he says that human beings are a biological battery, okay? Which means that this energy is intended to be harvested by the demiurgic system. And then I have to mention the whole sexual industry, specifically the pornography, which is a very, very dangerous industry because it is producing waves from the human orgasm, which is the harvesting of the orgone energy, as studied by Wilhelm Reich. Okay, therefore, with the predation of the orgone energy, the possibility to experience gnosis becomes seriously harmed, as the sexual energy is intended to be the nourishment for the monad or the divine spark. Okay, so that's why the pornographic industry is designed to prevent gnosis. Okay, and also I mentioned the work of Carlos Castaneda, The Active Side of Infinity, that explains how this demiurgic predator works in human society, and specifically towards the sexual energy, with all this pseudo-erotic paraphernalia spread through the modern world, which is one of the most dangerous aspects of the archontic system. Okay, aside the industry of tobacco, alcohol, meat eating. Okay, so all this is designed to lower human vibration and to harm seriously the sexual energy, so it does not play its original function, which is to nourish the monad. Okay, therefore we're talking about war on consciousness. The radical Gnostic intention, while affirming that this world and the physical universe are manifestation oh, pardon me, I'm repeating here. Uh, Therefore, the imperative in escaping the demiurgic system, experience gnosis and return to the pleroma, alerts the collective to human captivity and the responsibility of freedom in its utmost seriousness. In fact, the literature found in Nag Hammadi, in its clandestine character, as it is sealed in the jar in a hurry under the threat of imperial authorities, is a minimal parcel of the vast library of papyri and the scientific and astrological activities that occurred in the library of Alexandria. And this is a reference also to the Muses and the magical deity called in Kemet Asurapi or Serapis, that was symbolized by this deity with a risen finger in its mouth, indicating silence, which is the Library of Alexandria was the reign of silence. wise women such as Hypatia, expressing individual autonomy and the human born right and experience the Gnostic revelation, became a living threat to the imperial and demiurgic system towards religious, juridical, and economical authorities. So Hypatia's life has been experienced in a time where this tension between the Gnostic and the demiurgic culture reached its climax. And unfortunately, in a very shameful event, under the orders of Saint Cyril of Alexandria, okay, a religious corporative authority has ordered Hypatia's murder, and she was humiliated in public. A very shameful event that has lasted very intensively way up to the Middle Ages with the Inquisitions, the persecution of so-called witches, the public tortures and the public spectacles. Okay, so all this is the demiurgic. Oh, and the destruction of the Cathars also, a very very shameful event in human history. Aside many others by the same powers, right? That is the total waging of war towards the Gnostic and the alchemical culture based on the qualities that Hypatia expressed in her life, which is individual autonomy and the human born right to experience gnosis and know thyself. Okay, yeah, know oneself. Not requiring mediation, obedience, and submission within the Gnostic culture, this individual freedom has been forced to the deepest clandestinity. So the alchemists and the Gnostic did not entirely disappear, but they went hidden and underground. They went to clandestinity under the threat of persecution. An essential difference between the alchemical and the imperial culture is exposed in the concept of justice. In one case, the Gnostic, it's about finding the central point in the balance of justice, called Ma'at, one of the Kemet Neteru, which is also the balance of Libra, where the weight of the heart has to equate with the weight of a feather, a bird's feather, as a sign of success. So with this success, Ma'at would allow the soul to move ahead into the fields of Amenhotep. So this is an impersonal virtue based on equanimity, where in through equilibrium indicates the possibility of freedom. When with the demiurgic culture, the juridical system implies in generating friction in an opposition between parts towards a juridical authority in a tribunal of justice, where the Hebraic term ha-Satan derives from, which simply means two opposing parts within a tribunal of justice and the juridical authority wearing black. Be it in a criminal process, be it in a judgment subordinated to inquisitive deities, imperial deities such as Osiris and Seth. Okay. Um, Pardon me. So this imperial justice is is also a game where, for being based in punishment and fear, it intends to generate energy, including in the situation where the opposing parts confront themselves towards the judge, so that in this tension, the energy generated is harvested by the system. Well, this is a pattern that is applied directly to the modern world. Okay, since friction and energy generation can be observed in the taxpaying, okay, money that for this Federal Reserve System and the whole economy based on the dollar is nothing but an abstraction. It has no tangible link to reality. So there's no real wealth behind money. It's an artificial bubble, and since these institutions can print money as much as they want, it reveals the incredible fraudulent and suicidal nature of the system, of the financial system. And as I pointed out in a previous lecture, what the terms capital and moneta really means, and where are the historical antecessors of this financial system related to these terms. Okay, the harvesting of friction generated energy can be observed in pornography, as I mentioned, in public events like football games or rock concerts. Okay, and all of this is simply the demiurgic system in operation. Okay, and of course I must mention the incredible work of Robert Monroe, that had many out-of-body experiences and made a study of how the loosh, it's called loosh, right? This generation of energy through friction, how this loosh energy is harvested throughout the archonic system. Uh, a quick comment, one may ask, well, so what is the solution, right? Not to generate loosh. I would point out that the solution is passes through the balance and the the marrying of polarities. So instead of reactions that generate loosh in both polarities, right, in negative and positive, one could intend to reside in neutrality. So neutrality is the central point where these polarities are balanced, and where emission of loosh through reactions becomes unlikely. Okay, so neutrality and responsibility is a possible solution towards generating loosh through reactions. Okay. So in this vertical pyramid of authorities, the Saturnian predatorial system, such as we see today in the tribunals of justice that were defined by Jordan Maxwell as a ball game. Again, a ball game in within the courts of justice. Why? Because the only purpose there is to generate energy through money, for the payment of money, and through loosh as fear, anxiety, and all of this. So it is all a simulation, okay, that Jordan Maxwell has studied in a very, very beautiful and efficient way in his great work. And now, completing our life, contrasting with the Gnostic culture, The culture based on Ma'at and Tehuti, Hermes, has in its center of presence the impersonal virtue of equilibrium, the equanimity of Libra, which is a direct parallel to what I call the neutrality. So finding this point of equilibrium within the balance of Libra is the same as finding neutrality within, balancing polarity and transcending the reactions that bring the emission of lush. Okay, as the imperial culture of the Demiurge is based on the friction that generates fear, anxiety, and the predatorial harvest of energies towards the cult of the Sun, Aton, and Seth, Saturn. Thank you very much. Uh, Please like, subscribe to the channel, comment, and uh, I hope to have you all joining the course until its completion. So until the next lecture, and thank you very much.